1. Context. My grandfather ran a local light shop in rural Australia for nearly a decade. During my early high school years, I wasn't quite ready to be home without supervision, so I would spend my afternoons at the shop doing homework and reading. I also worked there on Saturdays until we closed, and was on good terms with the 2 employees and obviously with my grandfather and grandmother, who also worked there on occasion. I'm also taller than the other workers, so I often got lights up and down from the ceiling. The story. I had just finished a long day at school on a sweltering late summer day, so I went straight to the employee kitchen where I spent time after school, but was stopped by employee 1 who needed help getting a light down for a lady who looked about 100. I said sure, getting the light down and handing it over to employee 1. She thanked me, and for some reason the 100-year-old lady handed me a $5 note. I tried to return it, but she refused, saying I reminded her of her own grandson, and that she thinks he even goes to my school. I was wearing my Catholic school uniform, which looks nothing like the work uniform the employees wore. I continued walking to the kitchen, as I was almost into the employee-only area when a woman, around 40, Karen haircut before it was a thing, tapped me on the shoulder. I wheeled around and saw she was holding a rather expensive lamp which I had tagged myself last Saturday. It was worth a little under $500.
Can you ring this up for me?
She started sounding pretty kind, but it got ugly quick. Sorry, ma'am, I'm not
And can I get a discount? I could get this at your competitor's store for half the price.
Ma'am, if you need my help, I'm not available until Saturday. I then went to open the door again. That's when Karen grabbed my arm.
You lying little shit, this place is closed on Saturdays.
It never was or has been.
I want a word with your boss.
I poked my head through the half-open door and called out for my grandfather, calling him by the name I called him as my parents' parent and not his real name. He came out a few seconds later. IOP, hi Karen. Apparently she was a regular. What's the matter?
This kid is refusing to let me pay for my lamp.
She's brandishing it like a weapon.
I'll go somewhere else if your employees are going to treat me like this.
Sorry, Karen, but he's off work today. He's a student. He indicates the uniform and bag I'm wearing.
He helped that lady.
She points in the general direction of where I pulled down the light, but employee 1 and the lady are now at the counter, out of view of the 3 of us. My grandfather looks at where she's pointing, then at me, Karen's hand on my arm, then straight into Karen's soul. I've never seen him upset in my life, but he looks mad as hell. Karen, if you're willing to come up to the front with me, I can ring you up.
No, you can't cover up for your crappy employees. He's totally capable.
You're right. I can't cover up for bad service, but I can protect my grandson. He then wrenches her hand off my arm, took the lamp, gave it to me, and pointed to where it was before lightly pushing me in that direction. He then escorted her out the front door. That Saturday, besides the till, was a list with banned customers written at the top. Karen's full name was written directly below. When the store closed last year, Karen was the only one on that list. 2. So some background before we begin. I'm a huge car enthusiast who's very proud of my family heritage, mainly French and Italian, and have been to Europe a few times to be familiar with the cars there. That said, let's begin. It's about 2015-ish, and I'm at work at my local outlet mall working at a higher-end audio brand. It's a mall that sees a ton of both local and international traffic, as there is an international airport about 10 miles away with buses that run direct to it from the airport. Kinda legit when you think about it. We just started selling a brand new Bluetooth speaker that had plenty of hype behind it, and was becoming quite popular as we were entering the summer months, because of its loudness and outdoor usability. Enter Air Force Vet. Hi, welcome to the store. How can I help you? Well, I have an odd request. What do you need? Heard this line before, or so I thought. Oh, I need to take a product outside. You have a floor model I can take? Mildly startled, what do you mean outside? Our products can't leave our sales floor. This gets the attention of my store manager, who now has his head turned to listen in on the conversation. Well, I need to see if something fits in a tight space. Mind you, this gentleman is older, maybe mid-50s to early 60s. From his demeanor, I could tell that even he knew this was highly irregular. to ask to take a product out of the store floor without purchasing, but I could also tell he was an honest sort of guy. The store manager walks over. "What are you trying to do, sir?" "I'd heard about this new speaker of yours and wanted to see if it fit in a space in my car. It doesn't have a stereo, and this speaker looks like it could fit perfectly in this space." My manager knows my affinity for cars, so when I looked at him knowingly and longingly, he gave the approval to go outside with the product and was basically told to guard the unit with my life. As we walked out to the guy's car, we started talking back and forth. Turns out he is an Air Force vet from serving for nearly 20 years at air bases in Germany and Italy. He served during the 70s to 90s, and lived there for a small while with his wife in Italy. They returned only recently and decided to bring his beloved car back from Italy with him. The car. A beautiful, all-original 1970s Fiat 500 in a glorious two-tone red on black. It had been refitted with a power outlet to run a small fan. Car was never built with AC or anything powered. With the original leather top as the only other source of fresh air, and it was tiny. After discussing the car, we promptly looked in the center. Lo and behold, the space was a near-exact fit, with a power outlet to charge the speaker with right there. Car never had a radio in it to begin with, so this would be a huge upgrade over the deafening sound of tiny Italian engine noises. We gave it a test right then and there and lot in the car. Air Force vet was relatively satisfied, but after all the excitement over seeing and being in his car, I wanted to seal the sale. I convinced him to start the car. At this point we were pretty chummy, so we could test the speaker with the native car sounds and see if the speaker could outdo the noise. Then he gets really committed. "Buckle in, let's go for a ride." Without question, I buckled in. Next thing I know, we were scooting around the massive parking lot on my outlet mall doing nearly 40 to 50 miles per hour, the top speed of the Fiat. Blasting the Eagles at full volume without any issues, hearing the music. I'm having a blast, loving every second of not only chilling with this incredibly nice gentleman, but also getting paid to be in this car with Air Force vet. About 10 minutes of race car noises and receipts later, he bought not only the speaker, but every optional item we had for it. Minus a car charger, since he had the power outlet already in his car. Easily the coolest day at work ever, and one of the best customers I ever had. 3. A couple towns away from my current residence, while running errands, I came across this massive Joanne Fabrics. It was very conveniently located right next to the store I was needing to pick something up from, so being the crafty nerd that I am, I couldn't resist venturing inside this behemoth of a hobby house. I wandered a bit aimlessly, dazed by all the ooh, shiny moments I was having, when I found myself in front of a clearance section in the back. As I admired how even their clearance section was delightfully organized, I saw someone approach me from the adjacent aisle out of the corner of my eye. "Excuse me, but do you have any idea how to find the price on this? There are so many stickers, but none of them have the price." I turned to find the woman in her 50s, with graying blonde bobbed hair, staring at me plaintively, clutching a large box of glass mason jars to her chest. Her tone of voice suggested that she didn't actually think I worked there, but it was obvious her confused frustration had her vocally reaching out to the nearest person in the vicinity. She might have just been looking for someone to commiserate with her about the confusing number of barcodes this single box had been slathered with, but she lucked out. I had worked for several years at a big box craft store in the days of yore, and had the answers she needed. I recognized those tricksy shipping barcodes, bane of all new retail employees just trying to find the right darn barcode to scan. I pointed out to the small one on the bottom corner of the box, printed on the cardboard beneath the plastic wrap. "Well, that's the one they'll need to scan, but..." The unspoken words of "there's no price near it" hung in the air as she turned to where she had found the box. I noticed that all of the pricing stickers usually placed on the shelves beneath various items had been removed, so there was genuinely no hint as to the possible cost of any of the items on that aisle. But then I remembered the price scanner I had seen a couple aisles away next to the ribbon. I literally had the thought, "A price scanner, neat," as it flashed red in my eyes from being placed rather oddly on a high pole. I conveyed as much to the woman about there being a price scanner nearby, not that it so scandalously flashed me, and proceeded to hunt down the ribbon aisle while she followed me. I gave myself a mental high five for remembering the location correctly and showed her how to use the scanner. $15.99. She looked crestfallen. That's a bit much. I guess I'll go put this back. As she turned to leave, I pulled out my phone. Do you have their app? They might have a good coupon going on. Not sponsored, I swear. She stopped, acknowledged my comment with a hopeful tone, and began trying to dig her phone out of her pocket while I pulled up the app. I scrolled through the coupons and found a lovely little 50% off coupon. I showed her my phone screen, I watched as mental calculations occurred, and then her face became bright with happiness. I'm going to go get a bigger box. Thank you so much. She enthusiastically called over her shoulder as she hurried back to the bulk jar section. I might have been a little ridiculous after that, strolling out of there like I was king, thinking, I made them a sale and I don't even work here. They should just hire me now. I'd do really well here. I know most of the... Oh snap, is that 60% off? And that was my rather undramatic I don't work here lady experience. Might be a bit boring, but it made me really freaking happy to make someone else happy. 4. To preface, I work at a thrift store. I haven't been there long, but I've been slowly amassing a ton of stories, some sadder than others, some just weird. Something that happened last night, though, is one I'd like to share with you. I was coming back from my last break, maybe an hour before close. On the way back to the registers, a woman stares me down and asks me if I'm good at multiplication, because she'd like to know how much 43 pairs of jeans are. I'm not exactly working here because of my skill with math, so I tell her I'm unsure, but she really wants to know and encourages me to find out. Okay. Go up to the registers and the assistant manager is pulling one of the other cashiers to go home. Tell them what just occurred, and they say they'll tell her on the way back, and that it came out to be about $300. Closing time rolls around, the last few customers get rung out, but I haven't seen her in the last hour, and figure she's either still shopping, despite the warnings of closing for the past 30 minutes, or she left, either with the cart or without. On a whim, I go take a look-see, and spy a lone cart full of clothes and grab it. On the way back, who do I see but the woman from before, now in the suitcase area, pulling clothes off their hangers. I go back, tell the AM, who gives another warning over the intercom that the store is closed, but then just decides, screw it, and goes to get her. I hear them talking, but can't make out what they're saying. The AM comes around the corner with the biggest suitcase we have, and puts it on the floor. Open. It's about half full of clothes. The lady comes with her cart brimming. The cart I grabbed was also hers, talking about how she's treating herself with her stimulus check. Between AM scanning and me bagging, it still takes about 20 minutes to get through it all. All in all, comes to $899. Lady puts her card in, declined, tries again 2 or 3 more times, all declined. Says she needs to go out to her car to get her purse, so she leaves. AM says we'll wait a few minutes, then lock the doors. She tells me that some of the customers that had come through her register at closing time had pointed her and one other person out as having a conversation about stealing it, with our lady bragging about having $300 worth of jeans. We didn't catch the other person. Oh, and that when my assistant manager found the woman in the suitcase area, she was stuffing it. But when she was caught, she told AM that she was just counting it for us. Right. After a few minutes passed, AM assumed she was gone for good and went out to grab carts. No car out there. But the lady came around from down an alley, saying her sister must have taken her purse to the casinos, and wants to know if we can split the clothes and she'll pay for half of it now. At this point, it's 30 minutes past close, so AM says no, not happening. And she can come tomorrow, today, by a certain time, or we'll have to put it all back up. Surprise, surprise, guess who never showed? And you know, if she hadn't called out to me, it probably wouldn't have put our attention on her. And if she hadn't waited till closing to try to get out with it, she might have actually made it through the doors without us being able to stop her, like her friend. 5. This happened last weekend, while I was only involved from the sidelines. Okay, I may have started it unintentionally. I was there through the whole thing. I went to my local big blue box store to pick up a few grocery items. Not a big trip, but it had to be done. Now, I'm a short woman, 4'11", and it never ceases to amaze me that most of the things that I want or need are always on a top shelf designed for people who are at least 5'10", from my limited point of view. The only way I can reach those items is if I have something long enough to rake it off the top shelf, or use the shelves as a climbing wall. Considering that I'm not a lightweight by any stretch of the imagination, I don't try climbing in favor of keeping the shelves upright. I swung down an aisle and found what I am looking for on the top shelf. Since the item was in a glass bottle, raking it off the shelf seemed like a disaster waiting to happen. I stood there for several minutes trying to decide if this was something I could do without. Then I spotted a very tall guy. Tall guy had his own shopping cart, was not dressed like a store employee, jeans, black button-up shirt, and no blue vest, and was looking at his shopping list. My interest was in the fact that he was towering at around 6'3". I approached him. "I'm sorry to bother you." Tall guy had this look on his face like he's ready to say, "I don't work here, lady." "Yes?" I tried making myself as meek and apologetic as I could, so that he didn't think he had encountered one of those people. "Can I borrow your height to help me get something off the top shelf?" Tall guy grinned, nodded, and asked what he could get for me. I pointed at the item, and without so much as a struggle, he retrieved it. I smiled politely and thanked him profusely for helping me. I put the item in my cart and started to walk away. Then she made her presence known. She was about 5'4" and had on heels that were easily 4 to 5 inches high. Around 45 years old, pudgy rolls around the middle, and wore a blue sparkly dress that was at least 3 sizes too small and so short if she took a breath we'd all get a view of her belly button. She honestly looked like she was going to a nightclub, not grocery shopping, 1:30 in the afternoon. "Now that you are finished with her," she said this while looking down at me, as if I smelled like a week-old fish, "you can get these for me." Karen attempted to hand Tall Guy her shopping list, but he put his hands up and backed up a bit. "I don't work here. I was only helping get something." "Exactly. You helped her, and now you'll help me." I swear she batted her eyelashes at him. "No, I helped her, and now I'm going to finish my own shopping." Karen rolled her eyes and tried to shove her list at him. "I'm not stupid. Of course you work here. Why else would you—" Again she scrunched her face and disgusted me. "Help her." Do you really believe that people who work for a living are only working to serve you? Karen couldn't decide if she should nod or shake her head. I could almost hear the gears in her brain strain for a response. "It's your job to do what I tell you to do." "No, it's my job to do what my boss tells me to do. And not once in 14 years has my boss ever told me I had to do your shopping." "Oh yes, it's your job. You work here, so you work for me, and I'm telling you to get these items on my list, now." Tall Guy stepped closer, reached into his shirt pocket where he had his white clerical collar, snapped it on, and plastered on the biggest grin. "In that case, you need to get down on your knees and talk to my boss. I think the two of you have plenty to discuss." Karen's face went deathly white. She took very fast shuffling steps out of the aisle. I just stood there with my mouth open. Tall Guy removed the clerical collar and turned it back in his shirt pocket. He saw my amazement and adoration of what he'd just done and grinned. "Oh, don't look so impressed. I'm not clergy. I do improv comedy with a small social group of friends." He patted his shirt pocket. "This week's theme is church. I just came to get snacks on my way there." "Now I'm more impressed. I so want to be like you when I grow up." Tall Guy and I parted ways, and I didn't see him or Karen again. For some reason, however, I have this strange desire to watch stand-up comedy on TV. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Adventures in Fast Food and Retail, episode 121. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. I'm sounding a bit rough there, aren't I? Oh well, I think it sounded okay in the actual video. We'll not grumble about a rough-sounding outro. Rough Freezer? I think we'll stick with Kitty Freezer.
Meow.
Well, the the work that they were doing, I think it started today. Poked my head out the window, I couldn't really see any signs of it, but I did hear lots of banging about earlier. I think because it's out the front of the house, it's not really doing much to disrupt my sleep, so I did actually sleep. And when they need in the house, they'll have to phone me, because I'm not staying awake just in the off chance that at some point in the week they're going to need in. They got my number. Okay, with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.